right. Hi, everybody. It's Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live, number 169. 169. And today we're going to be talking about how to sing high notes without straining for guys and for girls, guys and girls, men and women. And because the principles apply, everything is it all applies the same principles, the same exercises, and they work equally well for all of us. So, how are you? I'm looking forward to this little session today because I think we're going to have a good time. Let me just pull up my trusty little chat here, and we'll say hi to D-Tune. Hi, nice to have you here today. Great to see you. Okay, so let me ask this question. As starting out the gate, do you struggle singing high notes? I would say 80% plus of the students that I have interviewed through the years, that are coming to me for the first time, about 80% have one consistent problem. That is, I need to increase my range. I can't hit those high notes. I can feel it straining. It hurts my one pro I talked to that we ended up working together for a while he was hoarse, after his gigs, and it was tough because he had to sing multiple times a week, and so it's one thing for a community singer, for a hobby singer to strain and maybe get hoarse or feel. But if it's your livelihood, then it's really critical. I'm not saying it's not critical both ways, but you're affecting your ability to make a living for yourself and your family, or you're affecting your ability to get cast in a show, to be the lead in the play. I avoided auditioning when I was in high school. I avoided auditioning for Carousel because the lead, well, I auditioned, but I did not audition for the lead. And because the lead had an F above middle C, and I couldn't hit an F. I could barely hit an E. I couldn't go there. I could go to there. Isn't that crazy? A half a step away, and it was like murder. And so I had that issue also. We're going to talk about, so yes or no, do you have struggle with high notes? I remember, and I was listening to Mr. Seth Riggs speak, and he was talking about how he was conducting a workshop, and asked, pretty much just put up on the blackboard, what are your challenges as a singer? What's your number one challenge as a singer? And pretty much one after one, everybody said, hitting the high note. I mean, it's just that high note is a killer. I crack, I break, I have to go breathy, I had to break in the falsetto. Finally, like number 17, it's like he had a bunch of comments. Like the 17th person said, well, I get really nervous. And he said, finally someone does, is not struggling with getting into their head voice, or. And then the person said, I get nervous worrying about the high note that's coming up. So it just all came back to being able to sing the higher notes in a really comfortable, easy, and strong fashion so that it doesn't look like you're struggling. I remember thinking in the auditions for Carousel, I auditioned for another part and got it. I played an Enoch Snow, and he didn't have to sing as high. And I thought, well, I could say, or die. Billy Bigelow sings or die at the end of this big, long soliloquy. And I thought I could sing, I gotta get ready before she comes. I gotta make certain that she, and so on and so on. And he sings, I've gotta make money to, pay for his family and then his daughter. And then he says, he'll take it or steal it, which is foreshadowing what's going to be happening in this guy's life. And he goes, And I thought, well, I could go in the falsetto, oh, die. It just wouldn't work on stage. Sometimes it works okay in pop because you can. It's just a a stylistic thing. But the musical theater, not so much. At least not in this, where this guy is a big, rough, tough guy and singing this great, big, gigantic soliloquy, and then to go at the end of the song and he's going to die trying or die. Just so I didn't try out for it. I disqualified myself from it because I couldn't sing higher than the E above middle C. All right. So, can you relate to my story? Alan Serban, hi. Nice to have you here today. I'm stuck at the, D-Tune says he's stuck at the A4. And I wish that I could have been stuck at the A4. I would have been in singing heaven if I could have. So some of us have, deeper voices. So we all face many. The 80% that I'm talking about, maybe 85, 90%, are facing some note somewhere along the line of in their voice where they just simply don't have it. And they might say, oh, like I was talking about, break in the falsetto, or just pull up and yell the chest up, oh, which, who knows what sounds worse, a sudden break into falsetto or just yelling it up. I haven't heard a lot of people do this, but I'm told that, oh, it's the way some people get through it. And so, it's a challenge. And the thing is, it seems like all the great songs have these crazy high notes. Anyway, I want to make sure that you can hear me okay. I turned the microphone up before I got started. It still looks kind of low. I'm going to double check it again here. So let me just quickly revisit my phone, because somebody told me the other day it was low after I had looked at it. So I'm going to, nope, it's still up. Okay. Good. All right. Now, today we're going to talk, here's the agenda. For those of you just joining, why is it hard? Why is singing high notes hard? Physically, what's happening? It's a physical thing. It's not a mystery. There's a physical thing that's not happening. A couple physical things that can be corrected with exercises. And so we're going to talk about what those are. We'll talk about how to cause the physical thing to get the result. And I'm going to give you like 4 exercises that will enable you to begin to be able to get these notes. So there's squeezing, yelling, there's over tightening, which causes us to get hoarse. There's the breaking in the falsetto. There's going really, really light and breathy the whole time, so you don't feel that and just keep going up. You can't be heard that way. What we want to be able to do is figure out, how do we do it with our regular, normal voices? How do we get to the point where we can just say, ma 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 ma. Anyway, just to be able to get right through there. And I couldn't do that till well after age 43. I didn't know it was possible to get up there. So let's start jumping into this. Number 1, why is it hard? I think it's hard because we don't know how to do it. We don't know it's possible, which was my situation. I didn't think that I was genetically capable of singing into that area of my voice. And number 2 is I didn't think, I thought not only was I not genetically capable, in other words, that, it was kind of like I thought it like this, that high note represented like being able to play in the NBA, okay, and that I was only 5'10.5" and weighed 135 pounds when I was getting ready to graduate. Well, I got my weight up to about, well, no, it's probably about 135. All right, so I didn't have the height, I didn't have the body build. I was genetically limited to be an NBA player. Now, there are some small men playing and women playing in professional basketball, but I just didn't have the overall genetics, and I didn't have I don't know what would you say, the gift or something. So I thought I was limited genetically, and I thought that about my singing, that I had this genetic limitation, so I just accepted. Okay, I won't. If there's an F4 above, there's an F above middle C, that's a tenor song, and so if there was a solo and that note was in it, I wouldn't consider it because I was a bass. And so we think it's hard because we think it's impossible. And the other reason why it feels hard is because the vibrations that are in the body, they actually are literally traveling up as we sing higher. As the pitch goes higher, the vibrations move up, and so I think we start feeling it, and it's a panic. It's kind of like, what do I do now? What can I do? And so I would stop. I wouldn't try and sing any higher, and my voice teacher didn't know, I guess. I mean, she had her master's degree from a university near us, and was a well-known opera singer and classical singer, had an album, and a well-known teacher. But we never talked about anything other than just find music, and we'll work your voice from about E down. I think I had one song I think there was one song that I tried to do an F. And try is the operative word. So another reason why we can't do it is because we panic. We feel that vibration moving up, and it kind of like something happens physically. This little thing right here, little on girls, big on boys. You can see this thing move up and down. That's the larynx. So if you take your finger and trace it down to the top there, you can feel that bump. It's not hard to find for the guys, but for the girls, you ladies, it's harder to find. So you kind of press in and feel that first bump. And if you swallow, it just goes up and down. That swallow is built into us to protect our lungs, to protect our vocal cords when we eat, so that food and water don't go down the windpipe, the trachea. And so the vocal cords, as this larynx comes up, this other thing shuts over the top of the vocal cords and over the top of the windpipe, and so that sliding by it is all the food that we're eating and water and liquids that we're drinking, and that way we don't choke, we don't drown, and other things. There are other purposes and reasons for it. And that's the epiglottis. That little lid closes over it. As the larynx comes up, it closes over the top and then goes back down. When we start feeling those vibrations, the larynx goes up, and it kind of goes into swallowing mode. It just, and if you put your hand on your Adam's apple and try and sing while you swallow, just hum, and then swallow. You can't hum while you're swallowing. Well, guess what happens if you're going into swallowing mode as you're singing? In other words, if the larynx keeps going up and up, it just cuts it off. So that's a very very frustrating thing when you're trying to sing high and the larynx comes up and everything just seizes up. It's like your motor engine just ran out of oil. It just grinds down to a stop, and you just can't. You can yell your guts out and end up hurting your vocal cords. But that straining, you can't do it for very long. You can try and do it for a while, but after, as I mentioned earlier, one of the problems is that we get hoarse. We lose our voices. I saw the coach of the Utah Jazz, the professional basketball team here. He was on the TV talking about the game. They had just won at the buzzer or something, and he was talking like this. He didn't have any more voice. You could hardly hear him. He was so hoarse. Why was he hoarse? Because he was yelling. And that's what we do when we try and just push that sound up. We don't know what we're doing. We're just kind of yell it, and it hurts our voices. It can damage it. And so physically what's happening is the vibrations are moving up, the larynx goes up, goes into swallowing mode, and we kind of just grab it, and it gets very tight. Or we go so breathy and so airy that you can't feel the notes going higher, really. The problem is nobody can hear you. Some people will just break into falsetto and sing in falsetto, which doesn't work as well for guys. Ladies, I think, can kind of get away with it, but you always feel like you're large. You sometimes sound like a second person singing. You're singing really strong in your chest voice, and then suddenly you break into falsetto. And so, the other thing that's happening physically is that the vocal cords must make an adjustment. You can hear down here, ah. If I tried to take that thickness, that heaviness of feeling, ah, and do it up here, ah, it's just, the vocal cords have to thin. We have to thin the chord structure. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. We also have to adjust for pitch as we go higher. And so the chords have to adjust for pitch. And if we're doing things correctly, if we're doing the structure if we're doing exercises correctly, it will cause the right things to happen in the muscles and in the vocal folds themselves. And so there are ways, you guys, to get into your high notes. I just want to quickly say hi to you, the rest of you who have joined us. I'm going to finish giving all of these steps, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to address every one of your questions. Well, let me just take this one. Are you saying the F4 and above are tenor territory? No, they're not. They were for me until I was 43 years old. I thought it was tenor territory, but it is not. And I thought it was tenor territory because I couldn't sing there. And so, and I was told by my teacher and I could sing bass. So that's low E, and most tenors can't do that, and many baritones can't. And so in the choirs that I was in all of my high school life, junior high, I sang the low notes. And so for me, that F represented like the stratosphere. It was impossible. Okay, so the vocal cords have to adjust, and we've got to drop that weight, and we also have to be, so we do that by the weight, meaning that heaviness of the voice, and then we've got to, and the chord structure has to make an adjustment. There has to be You know, strictly speaking, the vocal folds have to adjust. They stretch and they tense longer for the higher pitches. And so several things have to happen for that. The musculature of the vocal folds have to stay engaged, but they can't be so engaged that we can't get high. So there's this balance that we have to find in the voice. And it's possible. I didn't know it was, but it is. All right, so let's talk about how do we cause then these things to happen? How do we cause the vocal folds to thin out and get easy, so you can go easier up into your head voice? How so that the weight of the voice is not as heavy, especially so when I'm talking about the low notes, chest voice. How do I thin that out so I can sing? You know, because I can't sing that big vibration, that big vibratory, thick, heavy vocal cord up that high. It's just, I can't do it. And nobody else can either. We've got to make, there has to be some adjustments. So, and we have to prevent that, we have to keep this thing from going in the swallowing mode, the larynx going up. Otherwise, it just squeezes everything off. Okay. So, I'll give you some exercises to help you do that. Many of you, if this is not your first time, may have heard this exercise. If I I remember the first time I did that, I was in a workshop with Mr. Riggs, my first time I'd ever seen him or met him, and the first thing we did was well, guess what the top note is? It's an F sharp. Right away, I knew something happened because I could tell that I didn't crack. I knew I wasn't straining, and yet my voice was going somewhere that had never gone before. That exercise is amazing. What is it doing that's enabling me to go up to that's the high, that's the A4, and I can go higher. With this exercise, we're saying, like, let me think about that. It's the voice at rest, and then you're doing this bubble over the and then you leave your tongue resting right behind your lower teeth. You take a nice low breath. And do that 1.5 scale. And what happens is the air, when it hits the vocal cords, it creates a little back pressure on the air, and then the air hits the lips, and the lips resist some of that air, and that creates a little bit more back pressure, and so the larynx is being held down. You can't really feel that, but it just stays down. And with the larynx staying down, guess what the vibrations do? They move freely into your head. It is overwhelmingly powerful exercise. It seems so simplistic. People tend to think it's a warm-up. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not just a warm-up. It is a way for the neuromuscular system, your neuromuscular system, to begin to accept the vibration traveling into your head, up into something called head voice and back down again. That maybe has never happened before. It hadn't to me. Without, I could do this. I could say, "Hey, hey," and I wondered what that was. Well, that's kind of another way of getting up there. But this, it could be on a note, and I could, control it, and I could feel there are other things happening too. It's another way for the voice to, the vocal folds, the vocal cords, to do what they have to do to condition themselves to get up into head voice and back down again into chest. So that exercise allows the vocal cords, well, there's not as much squeezing on them. And without that squeezing, they begin to adjust appropriately to get up into your head voice, to get through that middle area that wants to break and crack and strain and so forth. So it's extremely powerful exercise. And it is one of the main ways you can start learning how to get into your high notes. Exercise number 2 is called nay, nay, nay. And if I just put it on a different scale for a second and say, nay, 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 nay. I'm not pushing this hard, but I'm just being a little bit with a funny sound. Nay, nay, nay. Sometimes people call it a puppet voice. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Now I'm at the A flat, but I don't feel any strain. I don't feel any pressure, but I also am not breaking in the falsetto on the top. So I've thinned out the bottom. Nay, nay, nay. It's a nay, nay, nay. And the top isn't falsetto. Nay, 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 nay. I'm not going, nay. I'm not breaking. Nay, 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 nay. So I'm singing up into a high A with a connected tone. It's not breaking into falsetto. It's not releasing into a let go of just a false voice. I'm not grabbing it. I'm not, it's an amazing feeling. Extremely powerful exercise. You can do that on any of these. Ladies who may be with us or joining us later, the same thing is true on the bubble lips for you here. Or nay, 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 that's the high F, right? Yeah, the F5. F5? F5. Wow, I couldn't, if I tried to sing that full chest voice up there, there's just no way I could do it. So this is another way to get up into through your couple bridges of voice, a couple of the passageways, and this certainly opens doors to your high notes. All right. Another exercise. I'm giving away all my secrets, you guys. I hope that you like these. Let's do it the opposite way. The nay, nay, nay elevates the larynx slightly. Nay, nay, nay. It's not like I'm swallowing, though. Nay. The larynx almost disappears when I swallow. So the nay, nay, nay is slightly off level. It's not quite at speech level. It's a little high. So let's do it an opposite way. Is pull the larynx down and say gee 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 gee. Now I'm going up to the A flat again. Here's to the A where we went with the nay nay nay. Gee, 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 gee. Now notice I'm not saying gee, 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 gee. I'm letting go as I go up. In other words, I'm letting go of the muscles to stop from grabbing. Gee, 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 gee. Now, all guys think that's falsetto. It's not falsetto. If I said gee, 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 that's falsetto. So it sounds like falsetto at first. Gee, 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 gee. But if I were at falsetto, I couldn't do that. Gee, 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 gee. If I break into falsetto, gee, 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 I can't press into it. There's nothing there to press into because my vocal folds have come up. There's just so little holding the vocal folds. There's so little making the sound there. None of the muscle of the chords are participating. But in head voice, so that gee with a little bit of imposition of the larynx. So I'm kind of talking like this, right? Gee, 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 gee. All right. I'm going to give you one more of these, then I'll take questions, okay? If none of these work, try this. Use the ing sound, ing, and put it on a M and say ming. Say ming, 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 ming. Ming, 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 ming. Ming, 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 ming. Ming, 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 ming. Ladies, same thing for you. Ming, 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 ming. It's a great way to maintain the connected tone, to the connected sense of of head voice and of chest voice and of your mixed voice, the middle. By doing that ing sound, it just lets you go right through those areas without interrupting the tone. Just do it on an ing. Now, just to recap this, I couldn't sing past the E above middle C. And not just when I was a kid. I couldn't do it at age 43. But that's an octave higher than I used to be able to do it. That's what these can do for you. I have sung a high C in a show. I didn't have to hold it or sustain it, but I was able to sing the high C in Evita. I was Juan Perón, and he's got this really great dissonant duet with Evita, and there's a high C. You just pass through it, but it was so fun to be able to do it, the C6. So, guys, these exercises do revolutionize your voice. All right. Let me take some questions here. You guys have been very patient, but I want to get this out in this order so that those who join us later can get their information and don't have to listen to me say hi to everybody. Neil, hi Neil. Nice to have you here today. Mr. TB, nice to have you here, and thanks for joining us today. Gordon S., that's what I do. Usually sounds terrible too. Alan says, I thought the same thing a few years ago. I didn't think it was possible. Now, after exercising, I've progressed to the point where I can sing Nessun Dorma quite easily. Wow, Alan, awesome. It's helped me a lot. Well, that's awesome. Congratulations. Sydney Rhythm Master. Hello. Hello, Sydney. Nice to have you here today. Gordon S., how do you then move from bubble lips to an actual song? I can work the scales well enough with bubble lips, but it falls apart when I try and sing a song with high notes. So, Gordon, I think that's a great question. And so I would say that you don't want to, I would say you want to start adding these other exercises with the bubble lips. Because what did the bubble lips first of all do for you? You realize, oh, there's something up there and I can get there. So let me move to something else that maybe is closer to singing. So if I said, nay, 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 or if I said, so now the nervous system will accept that. You know, if you do a few of them. Okay. Nay, 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 nay. I was just there with the bubble lips. Nay, 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 nay. Now I'm getting closer to a word. No, 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 no. Mum, 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 mum. So we want to get these exercises after the bubble lips. We want to get these other exercises in that enable us to feel that connection with words. No, 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 no. So whatever song I would be doing, Gordon, I would probably want to do it maybe on a no first. So let me see. No, 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 no. Well, that's the F jump from F3 to F4. Can You Feel the Love Tonight by Sir Elton John. And that's a great song to maybe break into, start applying what these things are teaching, because you're not killing yourself on Nessun Dorma or something, which is way up on like the B or B flat, I think. Alan could tell me. So that's how you transition gradually, and start out on a word and do like an exercise. No, 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 or nay. Doing it with the funny nay. Nay, 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 nay. Go up higher. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. And if that holds, do it on no, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. And if that's not a holding, go back to what holds. Go back to what works. Or ming, 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 ming. You get the exercises that work and do those, and then you try the next ones, and then you add, you do it with do a song with the exercise, and then do the words with the exercise. And that's how you transition into the songs. Hey, Ross, nice to have you here. I just read your story of your vocal folds. Ross, bonjour. Sorry, Ross, I'm not sure about how to pronounce your last name, but Ross had some issues with vocal cords. He had a polyp. He had to have it, or the removed off his vocal cords like 7 years ago, and he's making it come back, getting his voice worked out. He's in singing and getting some solos now. So anyway, congratulations, Ross, and very nice to have you here. Mr. T said, I usually sing through a glass tube into water. I think it's the same effect as lip rolls. Water bubbles shall be controlled and not too turbulent. Yeah, I think that works pretty well too. It's pretty much the same thing as bubbles, or another good one, you guys, that's amazing, tongue trill. And then close your lips over the tongue trill. It's really awesome. It feels really good. And it does the same thing as the bubble lips, although it's a triple resistor. Vocal cords, tongue, and lips. When I close my lips over the top. Hiro Nakamura, hey, nice to have you here today. My teacher told me to raise my larynx to get a bright sound. Do you think so? Yes, that will do that. But how high do you raise it? And how do you raise it? And do you raise it all the time? And do you have to sing with a high raised larynx? I think there's a little bit of a issue with it, and that is that whenever we introduce something like raise your larynx, you know, how do you do that? So we end up introducing tension that we don't want. The nay 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 is pretty controlled, and you can, and as soon as you get it connected, you stop using the nay nay nay, because we really don't want to sing. We really don't want to sing with a high larynx. The idea that the only way you can get a bright sound is by raising your larynx is not well founded. It works, but is that the only way of doing it? I don't think so. I think there are other ways, and that's through developing a really strong mix and having a balanced voice. You get a pretty, and it ends up being that once you're able to do this, it's really the song that starts to kind of color the voice. Interestingly enough, you get into the genre of the song and the feel of the song and the emotion and so forth. It seems to color the voice just right, without having to introduce an artificial raising, which only introduces tension in the extrinsic neck muscles and probably inhibits the internal function of the vocal folds. So I wouldn't ever tell I wouldn't tell someone to get a bright sound by raising your larynx, because I think it can end up biting you and hurting what you're trying to do. SK, nice to have you here today. SK Jorius, you, sir, are my secret. 24 viewers, and you're just giving away absolute gold. Yeah, but you know, I wish I'd known about this, SK, when I was younger. It would have been a lot of fun to do it. I didn't sing it solo, you guys, for 25 years. Literally did not sing a solo for 25 years. From about age 19 to about age 24, 25, or 19 to about 43 or 44. Stephen, hi Stephen, nice to have you here. The exercises, especially bubble lips, have been a revelation, and I can hit the notes I never thought I could, but the volume is not enough to perform. When and how does the volume come? Stephen, it comes when we're able to coordinate everything. It's kind of like you just got up, you've been crawling for the first 18 months of your life, or the first 12 months of your life. You just got up and you walked from one couch to the chair, and now you want to go out and run a 40-yard dash. It just takes a little while to get your coordination. And so you keep learning these exercises, you add more exercises, you start adding songs, and you maintain the balance that you feel in that in the bubble lips, and it comes. I think it's good to start singing right away, and doing all the exercises will help you get there a little bit faster. And it's really, Stephen, about new muscle memory. The problem we all face, right, is that we've done it for such a long time that our nervous system, our old muscle memory just kicks in, and yeah, we start singing, and we want to be more powerful, and so what do we end up doing? We go back to the old way of just shoving it up there as hard as you can, and you think, well, I got the note, kind of, but it sure didn't feel good, and so it takes a little bit of time, Stephen, but no, you can apply this pretty quickly. It depends on your experience. You can apply this pretty quickly as you get more and more comfortable with it. Hey, Daniel, nice to have you here today. Evening, just swinging quick by to ask something quick. I don't feel strain in my throat or anything, but when I sing higher, sometimes my tonsil area aches. Am I doing damage? I don't have tonsils, Daniel, so I can't answer that question. I don't know the answer to your question, but when you sing higher, sometimes your tonsil area aches. I don't know exactly why that would happen, unless you do have some tendency for tonsillitis, or the tonsils are swollen, which they often are, and enlarged, and maybe you're getting a lot of encounter from adjacent tissues when you're singing. So I'm not saying that you don't, or maybe that it's something you're doing wrong. You may want to have the ENT doc take a look at it. You could even get a scope and see what happens when you vocalize, and see if the back of the tongue is encountering the the tonsils and causing maybe some swelling or edema back there. That's my only guess, Daniel. If everything else is working well for you, that might be part of it. I'd maybe have it checked out. Nairosh Abdul, respect you, sir. Thank you, Nairosh. Zirius, nice to have you guys here today, and also the ladies. Sydney Rhythm Master, can you show how you do the scales? Can you show how you do the scales in piano? So let me see. Let me see if I can. Let's see here. Wonder if I can just adjust this. Middle C right here. So this is the 1.5. That's the octave repeat, and this is the 5-tone scale. All right, so maybe that would be helpful for anybody who's a piano player and wants to do it themselves. So hopefully I didn't make you guys sick by moving that camera all around. I actually was holding that camera in my mouth, which is probably why did I get off, or were you able to see my hands? Daniel says, also I recorded a high song and sent it to Mom. She usually tells me smoking is ruining my voice, but this time her reaction was, wow, impressed. So thanks again for the lessons. Daniel, stop smoking. It will catch up with you. If it doesn't ruin your voice, it might ruin your lungs. Wayne Wang says, is it okay for the larynx to move up when we sing really high? The larynx is going to be, it's really not a rigid thing, right? Because even when I'm talking, it's moving around. And so, but it shouldn't go into like you're swallowing. It shouldn't just like disappear up here. So, but if I, it goes up a little bit, but for the most part, it should stay rather about in the neighborhood of where you speak. Now, I couldn't go up the E flat if I were really going into swallowing mode, if I was really just jamming up there. So, good question. There's going to be some motion because you're also changing vowels. And so the tongue is moving, and the tongue is changing, and the tongue will influence the position of the larynx. So it's going to be moving around. But really singing really high does not mean a really high larynx. No. Oh, hi, Aleem. I didn't know it was Sydney Rhythm Master is Aleem. Great. Nice to have you here, Aleem. Demental Productions. Good stuff, my man. Can you show us how to obtain strength and not sound so weak while hitting these notes? Yeah, so there's a lot of other exercises, guys, to do. I mean, if I said, nay, 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 na, 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 nay, 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 na, 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 na. I mean, that's one way to get my vocal cords to come together more firmly. But if I said, no, without going into chest. I didn't say no. I said no. So notice what I was doing. I was crescendoing, getting louder but not allowing my voice to go into the chest voice. I was maintaining this this area, the no. Sorry, I hit the mic. That took me a while to learn. And so that's what you've got to learn. You've got to learn those things so that you can, but it's really about balance. It's about balancing the voice. So you've got equal part air, equal part vocal cord, and they've got to find that place. And that takes a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of exercise. I tell this story, but Pavarotti, he was interviewed, and he said, now, to be a really good tenor, he says, it's possible to and he said this really big F above middle C. It was slightly wide, slightly open. He said, no, that's not bad, but it's not elegant. And then he said, oh, he said, a really good tenor can do this, and he showed it. Oh, you know, it's just a great big sound, you know, that he had, but it was in my terminology, it was a mix voice. He had a mix, and it was elegant. It was magnificent. Now he said that might sound easy. Take maybe 10 years. So if you're as slow as Pavarotti, 10 years. I'm being facetious because he had some loud notes, but really good notes took him a while. Took him 10 years for that one. Okay, let me see. Daniel says, I also recorded a high note and sent it to, okay, we got that, sorry. All right, so Nessun Dorma is B4, okay. Mr. Kanan, why when hi, nice to have you here today. Why when I sing high notes I have strain, especially when I sing E vowel? Mr. Kanan, it's because the larynx is coming up. Watch. So you've got to learn to allow the pitches and the resonance and so forth to go higher without grabbing it, and that's called bridging. And so it's the E, F, F sharp is usually the beginning of the problem. So at this point I'm going to say go to the description below this video and get your vocal type, because you want to do exercises, special exercises that'll help you eliminate what you're describing, special exercises for your vocal type. And your vocal type is not whether you're an alto, soprano, tenor, or bass. Your vocal type is what you tend to do as you sing higher. In your case, you said it gets squeezy and grabby, and you feel that strain. So you're probably pulled chest, high larynx. So go to this PDF. It says get your vocal type, and download the PDF. It's got links to a vocal test. It's got links to the videos about your vocal type. It's got links to exercises for your vocal type. That will help you learn how to transition from your low to your high voice without having the larynx come up and get that squeeze. I recommend that really strongly. Gordon says, I definitely follow that process. You're a legend, Gordon. Yes. What advice would you give a teenage girl who enjoys singing in chest but has a weak head voice and she's reluctant to utilize? Ross, it's tough, and especially for the teenage girls. But really, everything that we've talked about today applies. What's probably happening is she simply can't get through her vocal bridge, her passaggio, which is, depending on her age, is, well, most of the time it's always going to be for these girls at the A, B flat B, and C, C5. So the A above middle C is where the break happens. And so they either hold on real hard and then it goes into falsetto, so it goes very light, or they just go really, really light so they don't ever feel it. It sounds like she's singing pretty heavy in her chest, but she wants to stay away. And the reason why she's reluctant is that it cracks or breaks or feels really strained. And so these exercises today will help her. She's not really able to get into her head voice without, and not have to compromise it. So I would say every exercise we've talked about today will help her make this adjustment through her bridge. And our bridge is E, F, F sharp, G. Hers is A, B flat, B, and C5. And that will be of real benefit to her. And it sounds like she's probably one of your good students, or maybe this represents a lot of your girls in your choirs. And this nay, nay, nay might be a really good way to get them to kind of feel, but have them do it kind of funny. I would start them high, though. Nay, 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 the C sharp. Nay, 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 make it kind of funny. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. It's the B flat. Nay, 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 nay. Then I'd run them on that. If they can do that, and don't have them do it hard, but just very medium, soft with that funny sound. It's going to even their voice out through that bridge area, which is the tough area, and go down to then make a run for it. Nay, 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 nay. That's 1-3-5, 1-3-5 on the octave, and then the 5-7. And that will help. So that'll start evening this out, and they might be able to start finding. The idea is once it's connected and even, then they can grow into a little more volume on some different exercises. Carlos, hey Carlos, hi Mr. Gilmore, thank you for all your support and tips. When I go high, for some reason, I feel like I'm running out of breath and choking. You probably are running out of breath. I don't know why you would feel like you're choking, but the breathing is pretty simple, and that is pretend like there's a balloon down here. There's not, but pretend like there's a balloon. Breathe in through your nose and fill up that balloon. And then as you're singing higher, pretend like there's a little string. You just pull that in gently, pull that tummy back in, and that's going to give you a constant supply of air. And when you need to take a breath, you just let this drop. So I can pull air pulls in because it creates a vacuum, and now I've got some breath, and I can just pull it back in. And it's amazing how much that helps with breath control. Choking sounds more like there's something happening with the tightening. So again, I would do some exercises like, oh my gosh, it's 3 o'clock. I have a student here, you guys. Sorry. Oh, I didn't get to everybody. Please forgive me. This has been a great discussion today, and I'll try actually and come back and visit these questions. If yours didn't get answered, I'll come back in and type in some answers, okay? And I'll have to do that later on today. Just so many good questions, so many good comments. Thank you for being here today. I've got to run. I have a student waiting in my waiting room, and I've got to get to her. So I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live, number 169. You can sing higher with beauty, confidence, and power. I'll see you inside the next video. Thanks, you guys.